So I've been hearing an interesting comparison the last few days, I want to say. Uh, Obviously, with Black Myth Wukong being as big of a game as it is, and as it should be, it was inevitable that we'd get some comparisons to other games in the same genre, or kind of genre. They're RPGs, but Souls-like obviously has its own sort of formula to this. From Software has mastered their art, and or close to mastered. I'll get to that. But this comparison has been between Black Myth Wukong and Elden Ring, a game beloved by fans, a game loved by all. Honestly, in a few years, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a Church of Elden, where everybody congregates every Monday, maybe even Sunday. Maybe they'll compete with the Christian church, and they worship the Erd tree. But nonetheless, this comparison needs to be squashed. It's this idea that Elden Ring is this golden beacon of gaming. It's this perfect game. It's a 10 out of 10. And that somehow Black Myth Wukong is competing with this game in the sense that, oh, it's almost as good as Elden Ring, which I have heard. We're going to tackle this piece by piece because that's fucking bullshit. Okay, I'm sorry. Elden Ring, what, a year or 2 years old now? Looking back, and even during the time, I didn't want to shut on anyone's parade. You know, I was thinking, it's Elden Ring. I think the game is great. I personally found it very middling for the series. I didn't enjoy it as much as Dark Souls 3. Granted, Dark Souls 3 was my entry to the series, so that's to be expected. It was my first Souls game, and then I went back, I played Dark Souls 1, skipped 2, I played Sekiro, I tried playing Bloodborne. Farming potions just pissed me off, so I didn't get very far, but I enjoyed the gameplay. And so I consider myself a Souls fan. As for Elden Ring, I put it in the very middle of the road for me. Let's tackle this piece by piece so that we could get something very clear. One, I do like Elden Ring. I think it's a great game. I think it's better than 90% of games that release. But to be fair, that's not saying much. That's like me saying, well, I like the roads of today more than in 1820. This is a very obvious thing that just any road today is probably just better than a fucking dirt road, right? So this is just evident truth. Most games are shit, and I think that's why we're losing the plot here. Let's go over the story. Story may not matter as much to you guys, but I do enjoy story games where it matters or where it's presented to be there. Obviously, this does not take away a bunch of my score for Elden Ring or anything like that. Obviously, Souls games have dog shit stories, and by that I mean they have no story, they have lore, which you have to read and watch videos on, which I love. I think the lore is fucking amazing, but it's this idea that lore is story. This is just not how that works. I consider, when you're talking about video games, I consider story to be what is presented up front in a game, and I consider lore to be what you have to go out of your way to learn. Example of this, lore of God of War. Ragnarok, for example, right? You have a lot of lore with Norse mythology that you can look up on your own, and then there's also lore in the game where if you read descriptions of enemies and items, you gain some extra lore. However, the story is the epic journey in which you partake, and the cutscenes and all this other good shit, right? So that's my distinction. Some people may not have that distinction. I do. I think if I have to go off of your game to learn what the fuck is going on, your story is dog shit, right? You have no story, you have lore. The only exception is if it is an adaptation of something that already exists and you are expected to know the source material. Retreading source material in a story can make a game unbearable to play through. I don't think you have to do this for most IPs. For example, if a Dragon Ball game comes out, it doesn't adapt this main story. Like, I'm not gonna be like, this story was ass. Just because of that, I'll be like, okay, you're expected to know Dragon Ball. Now that we got that out of the way, first section, we're gonna go with story. Yeah, we're on story, right? Black Myth Wukong, whether or not you have to make this clear, I am on a second playthrough. I played through Black Myth Wukong with only partially finished Journey to the West knowledge. I didn't read the book, but I was going through a YouTube series about the entirety of the story. Obviously, it misses some things, but it was good enough for me. I don't have time to read Journey to the West right now. I just don't. I have a lot of other shit I have to do. I went through not understanding exactly what was going on, and I was still blown away by the story. I thought the story was super artistic. I think when I think of Chinese lore and mythology and that sort of thing, this is how I imagine it presented. I think they did a phenomenal job top to bottom with the story. It is very confusing. I will give you that. It is very confusing if you don't have a very if you don't pay a lot of attention, if you're not very if you're not able to distinguish literary devices and sort of storytelling techniques and all that kind of stuff. For example, for the CGIs and stuff like that happens after each trailer, they have different movie styles of like short cutscenes that tell different stories. If you are someone who struggled in English class as a kid, you might struggle to understand what the fuck is going on, but it is delivered in a very, very mature way, and I think a very fair way. I don't think it's a negative whatsoever. So you do have to pay attention, but even then, if you don't understand what characters are doing what or who they are, you will still enjoy the story and find it very interesting, in my opinion. It is presented in a very artistic and beautiful cinematic way, told through your struggles through the game and the side quests you do. Some of these side quests are really extensive and long, others are short. Either way, they add to the world building. Everything you do seems like it matters in some way, and building the lore of the game and also building the story, and helps you add an emotional connection to the character of Wukong. You learn a lot about the character. Again, this is going to be without spoilers. I know a lot of people haven't beat the game. You learn a lot about the character Wukong through the story, and you do build an attachment for this character, despite the fact that I guess this is kind of a spoiler, but not really. It's in the first cutscene of the game. Like when you first start the game, you do not play as Wukong. So you're on a journey to collect 6 relics and revive Wukong. That is the start of the game. That is what you're sent to do. Fucking fantastic. I have no complaints with the story other than the fact that I have no complaints. I think if you didn't read Journey to the West, that's kind of on you. It's a very, very old story. I understand why they didn't rehash all of Journey to the West. It is very long. It is a very long tale. Even if you're watching videos, you're going to be there for a couple of hours, and those are like summarized versions of the story. Very long tale. I understand why they did it. It's a Chinese company. Everyone in China knows this tale, from what I understand, or like the vast majority do. There was a TV show about it. I understand why they didn't rehash that. And after getting through all of the story, going back, I understand so much more of the story, what's going on. I understand the characters. I love Zubaji. He's in the game. I won't tell you the role he plays, but he's in the game, and he is Wukong's best friend, or sort of best friend. I see him as his best friend throughout his journey to the West, and it's fucking fantastic. You really fall in love with him in particular, I think, and overall, very epic tale. Now we get to Elden Ring. Elden Ring, there is no story. Okay, you're not gonna know what the fuck is going on until you watch lore videos later. And people could try to say, well, if you pay close attention to items, you have to read, or you have to look up YouTube videos. And unfortunately for Elden Ring, you kind of have to start with that game. This isn't something that's based off of source material where you could just go beforehand, read it, and then get into it, and then be completely caught up with what's going on. You have to spend hours, significantly longer than I think it would take to just read Journey to the West or watch all the videos on it. You will have to get deep into that to understand what is going on in each and every section of the game. There is no story in Elden Ring. There are some cutscenes, but they don't really tell you much. This is the same for every Souls game except maybe Sekiro, which is very like blatant in its story, kind of. So I don't hold this against the game, but it's just a factor in deciding which is a better game. Story wise, I don't even think I have to linger on this much. I don't know anyone who would argue Elden Ring has a good story or presents a story well. It is not very well presented whatsoever. I think it is a dog shit way of telling a story, if that was ever their intention, which I don't think was the case. Next, we get into, I want to say graphics, something some people find less important, but I disagree. Black Myth Wukong is fucking stunning. So you guys understand, I'm on a 4090, I'm on a RTX 4090 i9, all the good shit. I have the Samsung Odyssey, fucking 9 I think G9, whatever it's called. I have the ultra wide screen. It looks fucking great, right? Very high-end setup. Black Myth Wukong looks fucking phenomenal. It really does. It looks stunning. Elden Ring has always been out of date when it comes to graphics. I don't think it ever looked good, and I think that's the case for every single Souls game. I remember when Dark Souls 3 came out and I was like a kid in high school, middle school. I don't know what year it came out, but I think I was in either very early high school or like end of middle school. Like I was done with middle school, it was summer or something. I don't know, something like that. I remember back then thinking, wow, this game kind of looks outdated on release, but graphics don't make or break a game. They do enhance a game though. I reject this idea graphics don't matter. I think that's just copium from people who have games, who love games that look shit. I mean, I think the art direction is fine. I think it's very monotone and boring in most areas. I don't think it looks particularly amazing. I don't remember a single area that blew me away. And the thing is, it released at around the same time as something like God of War Ragnarok, for example, or I think even more closely, Horizon Forbidden West, which is absolutely stunning. These are two games that look fucking amazing. When you talk about pushing the generations and creating change in the industry, that's kind of what you're looking for, right? You're looking for these games that you have these expensive systems, you have PlayStations, you have PCs. You want to at least have that shit tested sometimes, right? And that is exactly what God of War does. Horizon Forbidden West, a lot of the Sony stuff, Ghost of Tsushima, they look fucking amazing, absolutely stunning, and really like pushes graphics. It released around the same time as Horizon Forbidden West, which I think just kind of amplified the fact that the graphics are just dog shit, bro. Like, I don't want to hear any copium. They look dog shit. I think the animations are pretty bad for the 2020s. Like, I just don't think it holds up to par. But again, this is something that's with all FromSoft games for the most part. They don't look particularly amazing. Sometimes art direction can save this, but it's in very dark and realistic, gritty worlds. So very good graphics can make or break this kind of thing. I don't think it breaks Elden Ring whatsoever. But this is just another factor where Black Myth Wukong, when I say it's not even comparable, it is not even comparable. I mean, if you guys have seen any gameplay of either of these, it's like night and day. It's not even comparable. Black Myth Wukong looks better in every single way. Its set pieces are 10 times better. When it wants to look really good and it's showing you its world, it looks absolutely stunning. It is one of those games that are pushing technology, and yeah, it just looks fucking amazing. This isn't up for discussion in my opinion. I know a lot of things are opinion based, but like, you could be able to look at graphics and say, wow, this looks better than this in terms of clarity and all this other stuff. I think Elden Ring looks very outdated for the year it came out. Again, competing with some really big hitters from Sony, and yes, like, and that's for PlayStation 5 only. Horizon Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok were only for PlayStation 5. Running Elden Ring on a PC, you're not even half of what those games are in terms of graphics. Next, I want to touch on gameplay. Elden Ring, unfortunately, I decided to try something new my first time playing through, which was try magic. Biggest mistake I ever made. I ended up defeating like damn near every character in the fucking game, every boss in the game, without ever learning their movesets. I'm like, wow, this is broken. This is before they nerfed the Kamehamehas, before they nerfed a lot of the magic shit. I literally walked through that game and was like, wow, this is the worst Souls game I've ever played in my life. Granted, I have never played magic before in a Souls game. I just never made that build. Dark Souls 3, I was fucking strength all the way. Fume Ultra Great Sword, fucking throwback. That's what I did for the every other Souls game basically that I've played. Sekiro, obviously you don't have a magic build. It's just straight up reflexes. But for this, I want it to be special, and that's where I fucked up. Granted, that's on me, but also part of the game. The game was built that way for you to be able to choose this as an option. There's nothing in the selection that says this is an easy option or anything like that. I chose it and I beat the fuck out of the game. Black Myth Wukong, you really won't run into this issue because it's, while you have builds, it's not as varied and it's not as open where you could just become so OP. The game is trivialized. People talk about Elden Ring, but they never discuss the fact that you can make this game so easy by accident, and like so much shit at launch was so like unbalanced that the game was fucking easy. Okay, I'm sorry, it was an easy fucking Souls game. It was one of the on the easier side. It was definitely easier than a time I've had at Black Myth Wukong. I don't even think it's comparable. Like for anything in that game, I literally cheesed the fuck out of everything. And even when I went back replayed with a strength build, same shit. I also think it's very into combat, this is very important for Elden Ring. I think it's very sad that for strength builds and stuff, your strongest attack is jump attacks, so you're just spamming that. I think it's a very boring combat system. I think it's roll, jump attack for that build. If you're a mage, you just roll, blast, dead. Or at least that's how it was. I don't believe it's that way anymore. I don't think that's good gameplay. I did not have a fun time personally. I know some people really love that. It was bad, man. It was bad in my opinion. As for Black Myth Wukong, I do have issues with the combat in that I wish you could cancel out of fucking combos, especially because the third and fourth attack in the combo are so long that if you start those, like that's it. Like you're fucking strapped in. If the boss is moving, especially if you're learning a boss's moves, if they're moving, you're fucked. Like you literally can't do anything. There's no canceling. It does that thing with some games where it logs your inputs and it will activate that input even if you're not currently pressing that button. At least that's what it feels like, and that shit sucks. Okay, like that's bad. It does not feel good. I did not enjoy that. That's my biggest gripe with the combat of Black Myth Wukong. I wish you could cancel out of those. It would make the game feel a lot more fast paced, like I feel like it was meant to be. Well, other than that, Black Myth Wukong, you can get very diverse with the builds. It doesn't leave a lot of room for cheese. I haven't seen anything crazy broken at all at the very launch of the game, which is where you would find the most broken shit. You can get really good weapons early on, but that's just not going to carry you through the whole game. Like, I'll be honest, it's just not the same as Elden Ring. It's not as horribly balanced. Part of that is that it's not an open world, which we're going to get to. But overall, it's just... it's just fucking bad, man. Like in terms of Elden Ring, when it comes to that sort of stuff, it's night and day. Wukong, you gotta get good. Like no matter what you do, what build you choose, you have to get good at the game. You have to get good at dodges. You have to understand the timing of Wukong's attacks. Like the game's gonna, you may think, oh, maybe it's a little easy for you now. Nah, people who don't play these kinds of games often are struggling online. You can see it. Other than that, it gets like much harder later on. The final two bosses too are like that's balls to the wall, man. They're hard, and then there's other bosses in between. The game also varies in difficulty due to how the levels are set up. You can complete some side content, get pretty damn good gear before attacking the final boss of the area. You also can get items that make that final boss easier, so it rewards progression in a very lore-friendly way. And a lot of these items are lore items and also story items that The game rewards you by giving you these items to make your final encounter not easy, but a lot easier than they would have been for that chapter of the game, which I thought was fucking cool. A lot of games don't do that. It's really fucking cool. They give you like relics and shit to help beat that specific boss. Genuinely a hard game, but it's not unfair. It feels very fair. It's very doable. There's a few bad bosses, but generally speaking, it's a fun time. Learning Wukong is the biggest, or not Wukong, but your monkey, the chosen one, right? Learning how he functions is gonna be your biggest hurdle. If you focus on that more so than the bosses, you will do better early on. Learn when to stop your attacking and spamming the attack button, whatever that is for you. I think gameplay wise, I think it's not as varied as Elden Ring. I think Elden Ring definitely wins in variety, but it also loses due to that. It's definitely a detriment. Too much shit is unbalanced and was imbalanced. Don't know how much of it they fixed. It's been a long time since I've played Elden Ring. I did not buy the DLC. Not yet. I plan on going back and playing it, but I'm not super interested. My opinion of Elden Ring is very different from other people's. Generally speaking, I think the variety is what kills that game for me, because you can very much accidentally stumble into being overpowered. Like, this isn't, there was bleed builds that were overpowered as fuck. There was more than just magic, I'll put it that way. The jumping and attacking, like, that's fucking lame. That shouldn't be my strongest attack with a weapon I like spend hours grinding to get or something, right? Yeah, I think boss design, I think Black Myth Wukong wins by landslide. Well, I'm not gonna say landslide. I think Elden Ring has some really good bosses. They feel a lot less fair. I feel like they're a lot less thought out. They're not as important to the story as I feel like, or they're not presented as important to the story as they should be. Another thing I hate about Elden Ring when it comes to these bosses is that, unlike Black Myth Wukong, where you maybe have one repeat boss, maybe one, I can't remember who that would even be, but you maybe have one repeat boss, and there are 90 bosses in this game, right? Black Myth Wukong has like 90 bosses, only like one repeat. Elden Ring, damn, half the bosses are fucking repeats. Like, what the fuck? If you go into the tunnels, you're fighting the same stone fucking cat bullshit. If you go towards those trees on the map, you're fighting the same fucking boss over and over again. I think you fight multiple of the same dudes on horseback. It's just fucking lame. And then you can also refight all of the bosses you already killed from the main story, and like those little hologram section things with the worms. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It's been a little while. So this is what you get from open world, which is what I want to get into next, right? But we're gonna stick with the bosses for a second. I think repeating bosses is the worst thing you can do for any game, especially open world games, because it tells us that open world was literally to pad time and waste my fucking time. I shouldn't have to keep refighting the same boss I just fucking beat, especially when you have to learn their move sets and all this shit. If you're gonna make a difficult game where I have to repeat bosses, like, at least only keep it to like one or two bosses. But this is ridiculous. Elden Ring has a very bad copy and paste problem. The open world does not serve any benefit to the game. It hurts the game, and this is why From Software does better in a linear setting. I don't know why people hype this shit up like this was good, but you guys must have forgotten that when you play the game, you are fighting the same bosses quite a bit, like to the point where like it becomes a chore. It is not fun. You know what you're going into. You don't want to do it because it's fucking lame. And genuinely speaking, it's just something they did to pad time and make the game longer. I think that's pretty fucking obvious. Give you more shit to do. I think it is very lazy, and I appreciate the devs of Black Myth Wukong because the bosses aren't recycled. They're all pretty fucking deep. They have really cool movesets. A lot of them look really fucking cool. I think design-wise, they knocked it out of the park. I think Chinese mythology just looks so much better. I think it's super unique. You get some really cool like animal bosses. You get some cool dragons and shit like that. And even when they reuse the same kind of animal, they look very different and fight very different and have different moves. And it's just really fucking cool they could do that. But Elden Ring, I think I don't enjoy the boss fights as much. Not even close. They don't look as good. The bosses aren't designed as well, I don't think, in terms of appearance. I don't enjoy the fact a lot of them are recycled, which makes them feel kind of annoying and lame to fight. And overall, I think it's too easy to become overpowered and like trivialize them, in which case you would just not see their whole moveset. Black Myth Wukong, not necessarily the case, you know? Okay, I thought I heard something. Anyway, I enjoy both of them. Again, this isn't meant to be me just shitting on Elden Ring, but like I keep seeing this comparison. Like, I'm gonna compare the two. I don't see like how you can trick yourself into thinking Elden Ring is better than Black Myth Wukong. I don't think combat wise is even nearly as good. The animations aren't clean, very outdated. Like I said, it doesn't look like they did mocap for like 90% of it, which is weird. In 2020 and the 2020s, I think it came out 2022, right? Like, it's just very weird they didn't do mocap. They just kind of flopped on a lot of the story. Obviously there is none, but it's just not super intriguing until you go onto YouTube. I don't think the graphics overall are good. I don't think anyone enjoys fighting the same bosses 4 fucking times. Like, bro, fuck off. Like, get the fuck out of here. Didn't enjoy that. I guess Wukong has that with the frogs, but with the amount of bosses, like, it's not even super noticeable. And even then, the frogs have different movesets. There's more of a difference than the copy and paste in Elden Ring. So even then, for their copy boss, it's not really a copy, not a 1-on-1. I think they share the same like jump kick attack. That's what carries over between them. But yeah, I think that's the most important parts. Replayability, I think Elden Ring probably wins. You have way more builds and that sort of thing. But I really don't think every game needs to be open world. I think it hurts Elden Ring so bad. Traveling around on the horse isn't fun. It's super janky, not particularly great. I think Wukong's levels are significantly better built because it's linear, and they're not even like super like close linear. Outside of chapter 6, chapter 6 are bullshit, but like chapter 3, chapter 2, chapter 1, chapter 4, like there's a lot of secret areas and secret stuff you could do and a bunch of side quests that you have to really like look around and complete. Whereas Elden Ring is just like, because it's so open, completing these side quests is a bit more annoying and due to chance. Traveling and exploring is way more of a headache than a benefit, and overall it's just not as fun. I don't think the horse was anything fun. I didn't enjoy the addition of open world at all. I think that really hurt the game, and unfortunately, because Elden Ring got praised or overpraised in my opinion, they will probably make another open world Souls game, which really sucks because I don't know about you guys, I'm not excited to replay the same bosses over and over again and then kiss this company's ass like it was the best thing ever made. I think it's bullshit. I don't think that any category almost Elden Ring wins outside of replayability due to the amount of builds you can do in Elden Ring. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you next time. Bye.